Hey everybody, welcome to So Many Sequels, your book club for movies. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
Welcome to the show. We are talking about Goodfellas today. It's Oscars month. The Oscars kicked off March or ended February. I don't really remember which one. I think it began
It's all
March.
the same.
But
it's all a big blur.
we began...
The end of February and the start of March is all just one thing.
Bingo. We began with the Oscars, and now we're going to be spending the month talking about movies that have been nominated for Best Picture and other Best Award categories. We keep saying there's an asterisk, and I bet you anything, all three of us are going to pick Best Picture nominees anyway.
I know. I've been trying to think about that, and I'm contemplating.
You contemplate all you want, but that's the plan. Is we're going to do that. So be sure you subscribe. Be sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube if you haven't done that yet. We would love to have you there. We're shooting for 343 subscribers, so help us hit that metric so we can find out our next mission and our next goal. All right, let's jump right into the episode here. Goodfellas is the true story of Henry Hill, a half-Irish, half-Sicilian Brooklyn kid who is adopted by neighborhood gangsters at an early age and climbs the ranks of a mafia family under the guidance of Jim Conway. This movie was nominated for Best Picture in the 1991 ceremony, I believe. Is that right?
That's
I'm
right.
going to say yes.
Depends on how you look at it, because the movie came out in 1990, so
Right.
I don't know how that would all
But
work.
the
Yeah.
award show was in 91, so
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nominated for Best Picture as well as some other of the big awards. David, how was the box office breakdown for the movie?
Well, to tell you that story, we have to go all the way back to 1990. September 21st is when this movie opened, so I would have been about 6 months old, I think. Gary, you might have been like a year old at this point, just barely. It opened number one for its opening. It was 6.3 million. Total U.S. run was just 46.9 million. I said this in the past. As far as I can tell, this didn't get much of an international release at the time. So its worldwide total is stated by the numbers and by Box Office Mojo to be $47 million. It's had some re-releases over the last few years in foreign countries, but it's a very American-centric story in some ways. So maybe there's reasons why it didn't get those releases. But anyway, the estimated budget for this movie was $25 million, which at the time was the most for a Scorsese film. Still kind of a mid-range budget, though, by Hollywood standards. But this is the most money that Scorsese had ever gotten to work on. In today's money, that's about $60 million. So, again, kind of a mid to lower budget film by a lot of today's standards. The movie did pretty well with that $46 million run. It made almost 2 times its budget, which for not a blockbuster film releasing towards the end of the year, I think that's about as good as you can hope for. It was the number 26 movie in the United States for 1990. The top 5 movies for that year, some of them we've reviewed for this podcast, including one of our very first So Many Santas films, Home Alone, followed by Ghost. That year's Academy Award winner, Dances with Wolves. Pretty Woman, we did a review for this quite a few years back. And number 5, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was the number 1 movie that year. The very first one. We have reviewed two other 1990s movies. We reviewed Misery, which Kathy Bates. Couldn't remember her name for a second. She won Best Actress at this year's Academy Awards. And then Back to the Future Part 3 we've also reviewed, was another 90 movie that we've done in the past. So that's your box office review for Goodfellas. Overall, fairly successful film. Not like wildly successful, but did well for compared to the budget it was given. And obviously, its success lives well beyond its box office haul.
Yes, it certainly does. Well beyond that, and its show at the Oscars. Despite being nominated 6 times, it only won 1 of the awards. This movie was nominated for Best Picture. Lorraine Bracco was nominated for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. Martin Scorsese for Best Directing. The film was also nominated for Film Editing and Adapted Screenplay, but the one win went to Joe Pesci, who won Best Actor in a Supporting Role and was probably a television producer's favorite person when his acceptance speech was, "It was my privilege, thank you," and then the end. He did not pull an Adrian Brody. He kept it tight and on schedule. So
that's because Joe Pesci knew he was going to say some stuff he ought not say because that's just how he talks. And like he just needed to be like, thank you, bye, and leave.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Yeah, I love him. I just love Joe Pesci, and he's so good in this movie. Garrett, what were your expectations for Goodfellas this time?
This is my first time watching it ever, and so I was looking forward to it. But I always have a hesitancy sometimes going into a Scorsese film because I don't always connect the way that I feel like I should. So I was a little worried about that, but I didn't have any of that this time. And so I would say that it exceeded my expectations. It was very interesting from the jump. I really liked the character arcs and dips, if you will. And I really appreciated a lot of the shot selection and a lot of the thought that Martin puts in there. And so for me, this is him at his finest. And so I was really pleased.
Yeah, I watched this movie for the first time. I'm pretty sure in like a college art of film class when I had to take like humanities in your gen eds, and I just remember I didn't know much about it, and it was just homework to me. But I liked it a lot, and I didn't know much about gangster movies, or really Martin Scorsese at that point. So I just remember liking it a lot, watching it a few more times since then, but then kind of learning over the years that I don't really care for gangster movies typically. This is kind of one of the exceptions because I think it's different. I think it's very different even from Scorsese's other gangster movies. So I just, I still like it, but it's hard for me to love the gangster aspect still after seeing so many since then. But I still liked it. What about you, David? What do you think? What were you hoping to see?
Well, again, this was also my first time watch, and I have known this movie is revered, and I know it's highly influential. And I always have trepidation when I'm going into what I know is like a revered classic for the first time because there's a lot of hype that builds up. And so it can be very easy with my first time viewing, especially, depending on how old I am, to be like, for the build to be too much, for it to be too big for, something like that to live up to. So, but I was excited because everything I've always kind of been told led me to believe it was the type of movie I would like.
Cool guys doing cool crimes.
I was hoping for that, but I can tell that this movie was definitely influential on a lot of the movies that I do love.
Yeah, I mean, this movie's hugely influential in pop culture. It opens with what has become just one of the most iconic lines. It gets parodied and such, which is you hear Ray Liotta's voiceover saying, "As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster." And we are jumped right into this world and seeing his character as a child and going through flashbacks and all that stuff. Did you guys immediately feel sucked in? Because I did.
I did because again, I really like when it can be a trope depending on how it's done, but the circular storytelling can be a really well done method to suck you in, and they sucked you in at a moment that seems really exciting. And then as you go through the backstory and you learn about the characters and you pick up a little bit and you see a little bit more, you see that maybe this is not as exciting. You learn that maybe this part is not as exciting. And so, yeah, the way that they sucked it in and they told that aspect of the story brought you back and then kept doing it. I thought it was a great way to kind of to really hook you in.
Yeah, I think you could ask my wife, and she'll tell you that 6 minutes in, I said out loud, I think I'm going to like this movie. Just because I don't know, I was feeling it. It felt like while the actual dialogue we get in the movie seems very, and as I've learned, it's a little improv at times. It's a little allowing the actors just kind of like play out the role a little bit. The narration is so... It's so taken from the book. It's giving you the perspective of this Henry Hill character and him coloring everything with this nostalgic filter. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I was hooked pretty quick.
You mentioned the narration, David, and Josh, you're a person who really has a lot of opinions on narration used in a movie. How do you all feel like this added to it? Because I liked it.
I liked it in this one.
Okay,
Because-
why this one versus some of the other ones that you don't necessarily enjoy?
Well, I'll say that I enjoyed it in this one because one of the most glaring errors that happens to me in these types of movies is we open with narration and then we forget to use a narrator again until the end. That doesn't happen.
Sure.
We keep it consistent throughout. And so I think that sometimes narration can be used as a way to just give exposition, and that doesn't. I don't love that. But when it's a piece of the storytelling all throughout, like this one is, I like that because we're hearing Ray Liotta's perspective, or what's his name? Henry Hill.
Henry Hill.
We're hearing Henry Hill's story, and something that's different about Goodfellas than, say, another iconic gangster movie like The Godfather is that Goodfellas doesn't glamorize the life of a mobster so much. It sucks, and there's even a line in there where they're like, I can't remember, one of the wives says something about their blue collar guys, by day, and then they got to do what they got to do to make the money to live. They don't see it as something that's like, oh, the Godfather, respect, and all this stuff. So I think that was a long-winded way to say that's why I think the narration works, because it really it adds to the story for me.
Yeah. Well, I think it provides kind of from a different perspective. I feel like the narration does provide this interesting juxtaposition where Henry Hill, he really misses this moment. We didn't have to do any of that stuff. He's just talking about like, we did what we wanted to do. Everything was great. We lived like movie stars. But then as you're watching the film itself, you're kind of seeing like how, dirty and dingy and rough and aggressive all of it is. He's talking about how like, oh, it was great. They took me in as a family, and then they yelled at him because he tried to help somebody who got shot. It's this juxtaposition of how he remembers it versus how we're getting to see it, which is that it was rough. There was a lot of rough stuff going on. He was talking about how kids looked up to him and how respected he was. Meanwhile, he's smashing out car windows and setting fires and stuff like that.
Yeah, we get that.
Well,
we get that great line that you sent Garrett in our group chat. That was like it was better than being president of the United States.
I know.
Which is funny for multiple
that in a
layers of
second.
reasons.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. But I want to talk about the narration, too, because my other perspective from this is that I really appreciated that not only did you get Ray Liotta's voice, but you got his wife, you got Lorraine Bracco's, you got Karen Hill. And that, I think, also enhanced, David, what you're saying about not necessarily glamorizing or you're seeing the tough stuff, because I feel like the first act, if you will, it does glamorize the gangster lifestyle, because you are getting that nostalgia bit from Ray. You're getting that moment of like, this is really glorifying that this is good, this is the way it should be. And then you have her character coming in there and really showing you, no, this is not good. They are unhappy. He's out there gallivanting around, but the home life is being totally neglected. He is just completely disowning all of his responsibilities to go out and have a good time and ignore all of the things. And so for me, I felt like that bit of narration gave such a different perspective and was allowed you to follow two different paths. And you can take that message, or you can see it like a Fight Club situation where you absolutely are on Ray's side and are like, this is the life, man. And that goes back to the president line, because basically that's life now.
Yeah. No, yeah. He is so, like, before we get to her coming in, he is so baked in on this is everything he ever wanted. And it's all an insider perspective versus an outsider perspective. And when she comes in, she starts to provide a little bit of that, she's coming into this life at age 21, 20, something like that, right? versus him entering it when he's like 12. So like she's kind of looking at things kind of like with a bit of a side eye and a glance, but at the same time she's intoxicated by the privilege and power that it sort of provides. I mean, and a lot of the privilege and power that these guys get is a little bit unearned to an extent. It's all built off this idea of fear and respect that, this guy has fear and respect, so you better do what I say, because if you don't, I'll go to this guy, and this guy will go to that, you know what I mean? It's all built around this organized web of fear and respect, but, she knows it's wrong, and they kind of know it's a little bit wrong, but they don't care.
I think there's there's a level of like working class elements there that you can connect with, of like doing what you can to make things work, but again, there's a line, and that's what's fun about these kind of gangster movies is, this is painted as good intentions. I think they called them like good guys, or like working class police for each other or something like that, and they just kind of help each other out. But man, it grows, and they really show how each character arcs over time. Josh, you mentioned Joe Pesci, and man, every movie he's in, he is the star. Joe Pesci is one of the best, and this role really is perfect for him. It is so good. He stands out. He is so funny, and you can tell that he is also, they call him a coward at one point in time, a coward who is has to feel like he makes up for a lot of stuff. And you can see that in him when they call it out. And throughout the rest of that, the way that he acts, the way that he carries himself, he's so quick to react, because anytime somebody calls him out, he's just got, as a short person, I feel I can say short man syndrome, and just reacts to it.
Yeah. No, he's very volatile.
Every time he was on screen, it was,
yeah.
I mean, I couldn't not watch.
No, he's a very volatile character. He's very insecure. There's implications that, his life started, he started off kind of a poor kid. Obviously, there's a whole, go and get your shine box scene. And that there's this character who's just playing on those old insecurities that he knows will get under DeVito's skin, Tony's skin. And it explodes, and then he continues to explode. There were many times. Forgive me, audience at home. I saw this movie before I saw Goodfellas, and that was Uncut Gems. There were many anxiety-building moments for me with this movie where I was like, oh gosh, like I could just sense the tension as it was about to happen. But all of the violence in this is so sudden. It's not like a drawn. And that's what you get sometimes with other gangster movies, is you get like, the violins, and you get the slow motion, and you get the slow build, and that works too. But a lot of the violence in this, when they kill, what is his name, Billy Bats or something like that, there's no slow build. They just jump him. Right, and yeah. It's harsh, and it's violent, and it's ugly and bloody. It's all those things. So like the violence is always like an undertone of the movie, and you never know when it's going to jump out.
No, and then sometimes you'll just get, a sudden jump cut to the body, like the bloody mess of a body all over the place. It can be intense, and a lot of the intensity, I think, comes from Pesci. I second everything you guys said. His Tommy character is so unpredictable that you just don't know what he's going to do. He's literally a loose cannon. I don't know what that was.
He's wild card, bitches.
He literally wild card, bitches, for Sunny fans out there. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when they're him and Ray and the whole group are at the table at the bar, and Ray tells him he's funny, just like off the hand. He's like, he's funny, and then Pesci goes on this big, long-winded, like, escalating, what do you mean I'm funny? Funny how? Funny like I'm a clown? What do you mean I'm funny? Just getting worse and worse, and then finally he's like, he thought I was serious. Of course you did. He's scary.
Even his good friend, Henry Hill, is not entirely sure if this, like, he's like,
right.
Uh-oh. Like, like, that's not a good place to be in, where your own friends are nervous if you're about to kill him.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah. He's scary. He's scary for sure.
And then he kills. We got spoilers in this episode. He kills Spider on a whim.
Yeah.
Just shoots him.
Any other?
And one of the other themes that I want to say is, again, the takeaway that you should get is that at the end of the day, After everything that they've been through, you follow these people from, youth to adulthood for the most part. At the end of the day, when push came to shove, they were all in it for themselves. And at every moment when, you have Robert De Niro's character just so paranoid and then murdering all of the people who helped that heist, they are all not trustworthy. Even if you're in their crew, at any point in time, you can be double-crossed and it wouldn't even be a thing. No one would even blink an eye about it. And I like that's not really a focal point, but if you're following along, that is something that you can pick up that at every single point, someone betrayed someone else in their crew.
Yep. Yep.
It's an element. It's a part of the life, in a way, and sometimes that involves the cops, but a lot of times it's just you just get whacked, as they say.
Sometimes it involves the cops. Sometimes you just get whacked. Sometimes you get elected. Sometimes,
there's a list of things that happen or could.
Yeah,
I did find
anything's possible.
I did find the whole jail scene to be very interesting. They went to prison, and they had it super cushy in prison, where they were working the kitchen, and they just had their run of the place.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun moments throughout the film that kind of, I see what you're saying there. I also wanted to touch on a little bit some of the ways that Goodfellas has influenced pop culture over time, because there's a lot of fun ones. There's a couple real big fun ones for us, I think. David, you brought it up, and I remembered it immediately. Garrett, you haven't heard of it, and that is the Goodfellas, which is the classic Animaniacs bit.
It is.
Were you not an Animaniacs kid?
I watched it here and there. It wasn't in my regular rotation. I was very strongly a Nickelodeon person, and so if it didn't show up on Nickelodeon, I probably don't have much retention of it.
Yeah, so the Goodfellas was Animaniacs had a recurring cast of characters they would use. Like Pinky and the Brain was obviously the most famous, but the Goodfellas was this great parody of both Goodfellas and other gangster movies. You had Bobby, Squeak, and Pesto, and they were clear references to Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta, and Joe Pesci. There was also a bird father. I can't remember what his name was, and he was very much the Godfather, the God Pigeon, excuse me. And he would come and go, and he would just talk in like coos and anyway, usually the whole thing would revolve around Joe Pesci's character Pesto getting angry and beating them up because they said some slight, some inoffensive slight towards his way, and he gets angry at them. That's all I got. It was fun.
Another great one that I remembered was the show Community, which is one of my favorites and always has been. Has a season 1 episode. Garrett, I know you'll remember this. American contemporary poultry or something like contemporary American poultry. And one of the bits with Community is that so many episodes are homages to either like films or genres or some weird thing that the writers have come up with that week. And this one's all about Goodfellas, and the plot revolved around Abed, one of the students at the community college, basically getting control of the chicken finger distribution system in the cafeteria and controlling who in the school could have chicken fingers. It's fantastic.
It was beautiful.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
There's a lot of great references in there. He says, "I always wanted to be in a mafia movie."
I am gonna have to go watch that one again after having seen the movie finally, and so with that perspective, get an eye of it, because the way that they work in Abed's obsession with movies is always so connectable, especially for us. So having seen it and picking up on some of the things, I think will be even more.
It will be more fun to watch it now. Yeah,
it'll be more noticeable for sure. Obviously, it had a huge impact on like The Sopranos. It had an impact on, even more recently, like The Penguin has some elements that are very much taken from Goodfellas. So big impact on pop culture and just other movies.
Yeah, if you have any favorite Goodfellas references in pop culture, let us know. I'm sure there's a ton that we don't even know about.
In fact, I don't know if you can view it. Garrett, NXT, WWE's NXT has a character called Tony D'Angelo, who's like a gangster. One of his earlier appearances, they did a Goodfellas, him walking through the back door, through the kitchen area, like oneer bit. So like even wrestling has been infected with the Goodfellas oneer.
Nice. Even unfortunately, wrestling.
And there's a character called Stax
has made its way in. All right, let's talk about our final review and our rating here of Goodfellas. David, it was your pick, so you're gonna have to answer first.
Well, like I said, this movie, I had a similar reaction that I had with The Shining. Right after The Shining ended, and right after Goodfellas ended, I didn't know exactly what I thought. It was all kind of swirling in my head. I couldn't articulate at the moment. But over the last 3 days, it has lingered with me. I've thought more about the movie and what I liked, what I didn't like, those types of things. I, for the most part, really enjoyed this. I thought that the narration was interesting. All the characters are so, generally despicable and awful. And I don't know that I'm necessarily rooting for any of them, but I do find the story and the presentation of this life and how it sort of eventually gets to everybody to be so interesting. I thought the performances by De Niro and by Pesci were great. And Ray Liotta was good too. And I actually saw that Ray Liotta would listen to recorded tapes of the real Henry Hill to kind of model his voice when he was doing the narration. So that's a great commitment. And I love the way that the camera is like never still. We're constantly moving. And so I thought that, generally speaking, I thought it was really good. I don't know if it's going to become like an all-time favorite of mine, so I'm just going to say 4 stars.
Okay, Garrett?
That we didn't talk much about the actual filmmaking in and of itself, but I really enjoyed the way that it was shot, the way it was presented, the direction that Marty took. I really do think, of the ones that I have seen of his, which is admittedly not a ton, this is definitely my favorite so far that I have seen, and I really enjoyed it. It didn't, everybody got their comeuppance. They didn't get glorified there at the end, and I appreciated that. I need to see it again, but I also will give it a 4 stars because I think I'll increase it on a second watch, just for the second. Usually the first time is like, let's watch it, let's be entertained. Second time is like appreciation of filmmaking. So I think after that it will probably go higher, but I will settle at a 4 right now.
Yeah, I get that.
I dittoed all that.
That makes sense. I really enjoyed it still. It's held up for me over the years. So much about it I enjoy seeing again, and I forget about certain parts, and it's kind of fun to experience it again almost for the first time. So I'm gonna go a little higher than both of you guys and give it a 4.5 for me.
You've seen it before.
I have seen it before, so that's fair. So 4.5 for me, 4 for you guys. Okay, let's go to Letterboxd game. I've got some of the most popular reviews pulled up here for us to listen to while we think about what the score could be. We've got this 5-star review from Mary, who says, Martin Scorsese, thank you for inventing Italians. 4.5 stars, this is a good one. 5 stars, yes. She's a 10, but sometimes you wake up with a gun in your face. 5 stars, man. I gotta start doing that garlic razor blade trick.
Oh, yeah. You better be careful.
Don't do that.
You chop your finger off.
I heard a story about that.
Don't do that.
He chopped his finger off.
No.
4.5 stars. He couldn't have been more than 28 or 29 at the time. Cuts to a 46-year-old Robert De Niro.
Always. That man has always been no younger than 46. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Finally, 4.5 stars. I don't know, man. There were some pretty bad fellas in this one. So those are
Well
from the
done.
Letterbox gang.
Oh man.
What do we think?
Well,
Josh,
Josh,
I think
you
you're
are up
first.
first. You've yet to score this year.
Honestly, I think it's pretty high on the horse. So I'm gonna pick 4.4.
Ooh, wow, that's a jump. That's a big one. I also think it's going to be in
It's
the
a good guess,
fours.
I think.
I'm going to cut it in half a little bit. I'm going to wait. Am I going out of turn, David? You're leading, correct?
I'm in the lead, yeah. So
Okay.
That's normal.
So I'm going to go with 4.2.
4.2. Okay. Well, I don't think it's a 4.5. There's like only 2 or 3 4.5s on Letterboxd. So I'll say 4.3. We'll just see if it's. We'll just stack up on top of each other there because
Ooh, boy,
I
we're
know
gonna
it's in
stack it
that
up.
upper echelon.
Oh my God, this could be our first like distribution of points. Like we have a tie opportunity here.
4.4, 4.3, 4.2. Let's see. Load it up here. Okay. We do not have a direct hit, despite
Oh.
despite our stacking maneuvers. The winner this week by being the closest by 0.1 is me. This movie
Ooh.
is a 4.5.
Wow.
Well done.
Okay.
Nice.
I did
Josh
not
gets the
think it
point.
was in that group. I thought it was. I thought it was one of the 4.4s.
It is apparently one of the high. I wonder where it ranks in like a Letterboxd top 100. We'll have to find that out sometime.
Pretty high.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, I would be wrong. I think this might be like in terms of Letterboxd, like one of the highest rated movies of the 90s.
Gotta be.
So,
Good one.
It is a good one.
and yet lost Best Picture to Dances with Wolves.
Oh yeah, we should bring that up. Yeah, we should do that for most of
We
these
should.
if they
We
didn't
should
win.
point out what won.
Who else was nominated in 1990? David, do you have that?
Yes, I have it right here. Let me scroll down. Dances with Wolves, Awakenings, Ghost, The Godfather Part 3, and then Goodfellas.
Wow.
Wow. So two
Now,
gangster
Awakenings
movies for sure.
Awakenings also starring Robert De Niro. And in fact, I believe Robert De Niro was nominated for Best Actor for Awakenings, even and not for Goodfellas.
All right.
Wow.
All right.
How about that?
Excellent. Okay, well, that's gonna do it for us this week. That's our first movie review of Oscars month. We'll be back next week with more. Where we've got.
You want to let them know what you're doing, Josh?
Yeah,
I still
sure.
don't have mine.
Because we'll probably do it next, I guess. I have chosen to do the film Network, which came out in 1976. It's a satirical black comedy drama from Sidney Lumet, starring Faye Dunaway, William Holden, Peter Finch, Robert Duvall. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be a good movie, so I'm excited. Network.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Okay, yeah, that's going to be it for us. Garrett will have a pick that he'll announce later on in the month. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts. You can also go to somanysequels.com, see our past episodes, links to our socials, and all kinds of other fun stuff there. So go check that out, somanysequels.com. We will see you guys soon with more news updates and Oscar movies. Bye.